Last November, a Channel 13 program called Free Time focused on a group of young people who live in an incredibly depressed area in the city, the South Bronx. The group that appeared on Free Time, the Ghetto Brothers, explained that they no longer considered themselves a gang, but a family, concerned with the pressing social issues that affect their lives. One of the Ghetto Brothers was Cornell Benjamin. 3 weeks after he appeared on our program, Cornell was involved in a gang fight and was killed. We have a tape of some of what Cornell Benjamin said on Free Time, and after we've seen that tape, one of our producers, Tony Batten, will report on what has happened to the Ghetto Brothers since Cornell Benjamin was killed.
And I'm an ex-drug addict. Now, I'm not gonna lie about it. Now, when I came to them, I was still using drugs.
How long ago was that?
And then, about 4 months ago, 5.
That recently, really?
Yeah.
And how long have you been using drugs?
I've been using drugs off and on since 1967. But really not strung out. But the time I was strung out, I was really messed. Due respect to them, I told them they haven't seen me for a good while. They didn't know why. Yellow Benji asked where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the hospital and I went to kick. When I came back to them, I had everything straightened out.
And you've been straight since?
I've been straight since, and I love Ghetto Brothers.
So why'd you want to join? If you were straight, I mean, you could have, you know...
It's not that. I've been working with people for 14 years. Mm-hmm. Adults and neighborhood youth corps, all through my life. Even though, I have been messed up quite a few times, but there's a purpose here. It's something that's beneficial to the neighborhood, the establishment, and everybody else. Any ghetto brother or ghetto sister, which are alley cats, mm-hmm. They must, if they're in school, we want them to stay in school. I enforce that because if they're not around, I got to go through this. I patrol it.
I'm Tony Batten. The story of Cornell Benjamin and the gang families that live in the South Bronx did not end with the killings of one young man in the streets. When we at the 51st State heard that Cornell had been killed, we felt obliged to go to the South Bronx and look into some of the conditions that caused another man to be murdered. I would like to advise our viewers that what you're about to see is not all pleasant. In the film, you will hear the language of some mean streets. We hope that you can stay with us and look beyond the symbols of these streets to the broader issues, the basic questions of oppression. With me in the studio are some of the principals in the drama of Cornell Benjamin, and we will discuss what has happened since in the South Bronx after this filmed report. Cornell Benjamin was 25 years old when he was murdered. In the Bronx, in sections like Morrisania, Melrose, Hunts Point, children become men and still retaining an innocence, remain children long after the time their ages might suggest. In the South Bronx today, death is an ironic but frequent event among the youth of this community. And a fist of irony is clenched within the knowledge that death, violent death, is often most heavy here among the poor, who may seem to have so little to lose. To live in this community today may be to share in an inhuman existence. One must learn from implausible models the speciality of survival. One must be as relentless in the pursuit of this survival as these tough city pigeons. With hands to steal, legs to run, eyes that view life and death, which may, unless one is stronger than the strong, crush whatever human sensibilities there are left remaining. One must
Towers, president of the Ghetto Brothers. He was born and has lived all of his life on these streets. To Charlie Melendez, the Ghetto Brothers group is the only family that he has ever truly known. And so, the killing of a ghetto brother, particularly someone as important to the group as Black Benji was, demands, in the context of what may pass for life in the South Bronx, a response of more violence, more killing, a kind of escalation of the continuing war of these young men against each other as reflections of daily elements of oppression. The mirror images of this oppression, the promise of an unfulfilled aspiration, a crap game bet of $1 that may result in a corner knife fight, and yet another irrational killing, or, yet more subtly, the free flow of drugs in this community and its accompanying genocide that destroys with a terrible, gnawing hunger.
When I walk around, I like to think, and I think that I'm, maybe it's that I'm crazy, or maybe it's just that I like to do this, but when I walk around, I like to look at things, and I'd be looking around, and I see so many of my Puerto Rican and Black brothers all strung out on dope, and I see them stealing, and I see them selling each other, I see them selling each other's clothes and going through all these changes, and this is what turned me off, and I said, damn, it's got to stop sometime.
The youth groups are wired to each other by rumor. Hence, the question of what is truth becomes the major obstacle to any course of heading off violent retaliation by other gang groups, as well as the Ghetto Brothers. Charlie Melendez and Playboy, one of the group members, returned to the scene of the killing of Black Benji.
We came down the stairs, right? And we stopped there. And there was about 13 to 20 of us. And then when we looked down, we seen them. And that you couldn't even see the end, the corner. That's how many there were. And then when we got to the bottom of the stairs, when they could have seen us, there was only about 9 of us. So that's when they started, tracking towards us. And when they was tracking towards us, they was hiding the weapons, was hiding the weapons. That's when Benji came out, and Benji said, he took a step forward and he said, listen, brother, we're here to talk peace. And the guy, he came out and he said, he said, piece of shit. And he must have took a jump. It looked like he threw a kick, but he must have took a jump to grab a pipe, So when he had the pipe and he started swinging it. So when he started swinging it, that's when the guy pulled out the machete, and that's when they all had us all surrounded, And then, when he started swinging it, we moved back, and I started swinging the belt. Because I panicked, I started swinging the belt. So Benji said, tip, brother, tip, because there was too many. So when we started running, Benji was right, on my right-hand side. So, I heard a noise, pow, like a slap. And Benji had got hit in his stomach, and he tripped.
The jungle, and to many of its residents, the South Bronx is a jungle, reflects its own set of ethics. When the reasons behind the random acts of violence become known, they are often clouded and not what we have come to expect from this, our civilized society. After all, men die here because they are in the way of some force, or because they welched somehow on life, or just because there is no room in this particular scheme of things to allow them to live. In this neighborhood, one is lucky only if one learns the wisdom of the street early. Here, to be lucky is to stay alive. A Charlie Melendez might even venture predictions as to the future quality of life for those who come after him.
I guess it's what the teenagers are going to make it, right? Guys my age, 20, 21. What we do is what's going to, influence them, because, if we shoot dope, they're going to be shooting dope when they get older. And if they see, to get up, my club is doing, that we get ourselves together, and we do something for the community, then they're going to think that that's what's hip. And whatever they think is what's hip, that's what they're going to do. Or the school, that's one of the institutions that's really doing our people in. Because you start going to school, man, you start learning about Lincoln and Washington. That's all fine, I can dig that, man, but of course you want to know about yourself, man. You want to know about your leaders, about your heroes. So you can look up to them, because It's just like, you know, that's what's happening in the Bronx. All little kids are trying to recognize heroes. If Charlie's tough and Charlie know karate, well, everybody, all the little kids say that they know Charlie and they want to be like Charlie. Now, if they were taught that they had their own leaders, and that Puerto Rican, that to be Puerto Rican is not, you know, just to be a person that can only speak Spanish and can't speak English. And they were taught in school that black did do something for, you know, the United States, and Puerto Ricans did do something for themselves. And they wouldn't, you know, this wouldn't come about. But the schools are what really fucking them up.
Don't scare me.
Morton Weinberger, the principal of a neighborhood junior high school and a teacher in this city's public school system for nearly 20 years, confides his frustration to an interviewer. Does the school in any way attempt to reach out into the community to deal with some of these problems?
We'd like to think that we try to reach out. We have tried to establish now evening community centers when they have been eliminated. We've tried to set up little street academies and street clubs where we can see some of the older youngsters who are tending to deviate, be redirected. We have organizations such as Sarah, and we are organizing little clinics where people could go to. But the truth of it all is for the 16 to the 18 and the 14 to the 19, that age group, not enough is being done. This is one man's opinion.
Do you feel that you're a part of this community?
I would like to think that if I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to be here at 7 o'clock, and I stay until, not every day by any means, but I'll be here for community meetings, community school board and parent meetings, and sometimes at 10 or 11 o'clock, and I will attend functions such as, last Friday night I attended the National Association of Puerto Rican Rights dinner. I have had our after school, we have perhaps through the community education complex, a development of one of the finest programs of musical development for youngsters. This runs down to 5, 6 o'clock. We have our children or our students participate in community activities. We've recognizing our children, we've sent them to see native dances in Harlem. I'd like to think that we spend a lot of time. Am I a resident of the community? No, but as a principal in the community, my life has to be in this community.
In a community where a $5 bag is understood to mean a dose of heroin and perhaps a mere 4 hours of forgetfulness, and scratch is obviously the money in one's pocket, where the mind is changed when it gets eaten, men may appear who speak of alternatives. Manny Dominguez, a teacher of mathematics in Principal Weinberger's junior high school, suggests that some of the problems of this community originate in institutions once designed to prepare citizens for roles of productivity.
Hi. Huh? Talking on television.
Oh.
How are you doing?
How's the administration react to your becoming concerned with these kids who are outside of the school?
Well, in order to work with them, there's been times when I've had to leave the school. And at first, everyone liked it because I could help keep the tiger away from the door. But once the tiger started to settle down and stay away from the door, I was told I couldn't go out anymore, I couldn't talk to them anymore, I couldn't use the phone to help them anymore, I couldn't leave the class. When I saw what was going on Thursday, my first impulse was to leave the class. But I realized two things. One, that my primary responsibility was to the kids.
Hey, Sophie!
And two, that...
Kids in the school.
Yeah, the kids in the class. So I knew I had to stay there. But I also knew that my impulse to leave was restricted by the principal's feeling that I should stay in the school no matter what happens. Well, what's really going on is there's a problem because people can only handle the defined roles. And if you step out of the role to solve a problem, if you solve the problem, they say, well, okay, we understood, but if something goes wrong, then they say you shouldn't have stepped out of the role. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people are afraid that if I continue to step out of the role, that there will be a problem which will reflect on their control over me or their influence over me.
Do you think that your role as a teacher in a community school, in the public school system should be extended to the community at large, to the kids in the street who are not in school?
Definitely. Yeah. I think I should be able to use the phone. I think I should be able to leave during my free periods. I think I should be able to, if the crisis is great enough, say to the fellow that I work with, man, will you take my class? Because we work in a double room, you know, and he told me that anytime there's a problem, I'll take the other part for you, you know. We'll just consolidate the classes and you can leave, you know. Yeah. And I think that should be allowed, you know. If someone's getting killed out in the street and I might be able to stop it, I think I should be able to split and go out there if I've got the relationship with the people who can stop it.
What's the killing of Black Benji mean to a group like the Ghetto Brothers?
Well, it means a loss of a friend. It means a loss of someone that they respected and valued as a member of the family. It means that that the situation up there was so bad that two brothers killed each other, and maybe they should start analyzing the situation, and maybe they should start thinking about why it happened.
Well, it's just like what happened to King and Kennedy and Malcolm X. You know, it's just like one of them things that since now that he died, well, now everybody says, well, now we're going to start working, and now we're going to start doing, and you know, so on and so on, because they wasn't doing nothing before. They was all rumbling, but now all the clubs want to have meetings, and all of them want to talk about peace.
What do you think might come out of these meetings?
Nothing. I guess they're just going to, you know, it's just going to be a better life here in the ghetto. Because at least the youth, right? At least the youth of today, man, you know, they're going to know what's happening. You know.
What would you like to see for this part of the Bronx, for your community?
Oh, man,
to me, I like to see new work.
Too much, man, yeah.
See, I like to see all these ghettos, you know, turn into better improved places, or better places to live at, you know. Not like these run-down houses, you know, whereas a lot of kids and, you know, children get sick where they don't have no food. That's what we're there for. See if we can contact a lot of organizations, see if they can give us this milk, sandwiches. We can give it out to the kids in the morning. To the welfare department, see if they can give us some clothing. Just give it out to them, you know. And see, we want to help our people. We dedicated ourselves to our people. That's what Benji did.
And so, it was arbitrarily decided there would be no retaliation, no gang war reminiscent of the 1950s, to the accompaniment of popping zip guns, the sound of adolescent rage through the streets. And the word went out. There would be a meeting of all the families in the area. Throughout the planning for the meeting, Charlie Melendez, wearing an Army flak jacket, walked the streets and considered the possibilities of a truce meeting. The police as much as left the arrangements to the youth. With 3 youth patrolmen covering an area of the Bronx about the size of the island of Manhattan, it was probably their wisest move. Around the boundaries of the 41st Precinct, appropriately designated Fort Apache by the police working out of it, the wise policeman keeps a low profile, and there was little interference from the police until later. So the process of turning the killing of Cornell Benjamin into something positive for the community was made to depend upon a truce meeting engineered by the Ghetto Brothers and to be attended by gang presidents and vice presidents from all over the area. Before the gang members introduced themselves, Charlie Melendez demanded that all police operatives leave the meeting, including a police troubleshooter assigned to the city's youth.
Hey, I would like for the police to leave, or we got nothing to say.
He left.
Vice President King Cobras. World Council of Young Sinners.
President Young Sinners.
Vice President of the Young Sinners.
Vice President Young Saints.
President of Young Cobras.
World Council of Young Saints.
Vice President Young Cobras.
War Councilor Majestic Warlocks.
Vice President Warlocks.
President Majestic Warlocks.
President of the Saints.
Advisor Ghetto Brothers.
Warlord of the Ghetto Brothers.
But some city officials remained quietly in the background. Ted Gross, commissioner of the Youth Services Agency, observed the proceedings and listened to the speeches by gang members concerned with the tensions in the neighborhood.
I'm telling you, man, 'cause Black Benji died for peace, man. And like, wow, this is what we're seeking, man. That's what this meeting is for, man. For peace among each other. You understand?
Wow. Well, you had, that was the beef with them. Well, how did we get in there?
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you how we got in it. Because, like, let me tell you, who was at the motherfucking fight, man, when Black Benji got struck down, when he was hollering like, wow, why should we all fight, man? We all black and Puerto Ricans, huh? When they fucking hit him in the head with a pipe, man, and while he was laying on the floor, they said like, wow, Black Benji, all he came out of his mouth was say like, wow, man, why should we fight, man? You understand? And they struck him down dead. And you think that's righteous, man? They said you looking for us. Let me tell you something. If we were looking for you, man, I guarantee you, we would have came to your turf, brother. We would have came to your turf. You understand? We wasn't looking for nobody. You know why? Because Louis asked us to be cool, and the police asked us to be cool, and the Ghetto Brothers asked us to be cool. Because let me tell you, Brother Benji here is our brother, man. He's my brother, Jack. He's my heart.
He's our brother, too.
And like, I tell you right now, if any of my members came to your turf, you point them out to me, I guarantee you they're paid for.
They came up there in trucks on our turf.
Youth Services Agency Commissioner Ted Gross responded to questions put to him by an interviewer.
Do you think that the groups of youth are different than the bopping gangs of the 40s and 50s? And
certainly.
How are they?
Certainly. One, I think that they're a blend of several stages in our development or protest. I think in the ghetto community, the bopping gang was a method of protest at one particular time by young people. That was in the 40s and 50s. And we get to the 60s where we have the student activists era, and that becomes the ideal thing. And they are talking about social issues. Well, if you know the gangs of the 40s and 50s were not concerned about social issues. They were concerned about whether or not who insulted whose girl, who's knocked off whose hat, or who came in whose area. Now the youngsters are raising social problems also. Aside from having a tendency to bop, they have they're raising very real social problems and social concerns that they are aware of and they want the system to do something about. And so I think the groups today are a blend of the fighting gangs of the 40s and 50s and the student protest movement of the 60s. They have maybe we should say a healthy blend.
You and several of your boys come in, bust in, knock us down, take our clothes, take our record players, take our money, our records, and every damn thing we own, including the damn fluorescent light bulbs. And you people that hard off to do this shit, did we ever do it? Down our dungeon and do that. Down our dungeon. The real thing. Come down here and do this shit.
But I felt all along that the schools had created the problem by kicking these guys out in the first place for not behaving properly. Either they kick them out for not behaving right, or the guys drop out on their own because they get sick and tired of all the nonsense that's being fed to them. Of courses that don't mean anything to them, of requirements that don't mean anything to them. Like, take reading. Everyone talks about reading, 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 reading. To me, reading is just a measure of the control that we're able to exhibit over these kids. The chief means of communication up there is talk. And those kids want to talk to each other. The Ghetto Brothers don't bother with reading. I don't give them any books and say, here, read Marcuse, read Freud, we talk. And all the ideas are communicated. Politics, the sex, everything is communicated through talking. So these kids, and they love to talk. These guys talk all day long. Benji, Puerto Rican Benji, will talk all day long. All right? Black Benji was most proud of his rap. Okay? A guy with a good rap, all right, is a respected man. And that's why one of the main reasons Black Benji was respected. Because when he rapped, all kinds of things changed. All kinds of things happened. Okay? Things got better when Benji opened his mouth. Right? So they love to talk. And they're in schools where it's a criminal act to talk. Right? Hey, you're talking, criminal act. Bring in your mother, you're talking, criminal act. Well, how long can these kids that love to rap, who go out in the street and be with their friends and derive their malehood, their manhood, off their ability to rap, how long are they going to stay in schools where it's a criminal act to talk? Not very long. So the schools drive them out one way or other. They kick them out or they drop out themselves. Okay? So I think the schools created the problem.
You want to know when we came to your turf, man? When Black Benji died, man. That's when we came to your turf for Static, man. I'm going to tell you what's happening now, because all this shit is bullshit, man. You see, because like, wow, man, we didn't have no Static with you people, man. All we did is ask you people for the colors, man, and you people didn't give us our colors back, man. You don't see us stripping you people, man. You don't see us stripping the turban. You don't see us stripping the ghetto, but you don't see us stripping no other crowd. When we have Static, man, we sell it out among ourselves, man, because like, wow, we got to live in this district. The whitey don't come down here, man, and live in the fucked up houses, man. The whitey don't come down here, man, and have all the fucked up fucking no heat in the fucking winter time. You understand? We do, Jack. So therefore, like, wow, we got to make it a better place to live. You understand? Because like, wow, we the motherfucker that our parents gonna look for in the future.
Would you say that there's a power vacuum in the Bronx?
A power vacuum?
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about a vacuum being created by the fact that enough young people are not involved in the decision-making and the power structure of the Bronx, yes. Not only in the Bronx, that would hold true for the whole city.
You attended the truce meeting at the Boys Club last week, several evenings ago. What did you think of it?
First of all, I thought it was frightening. I think it was frightening as hell, to be quite honest about it. I think that, one, that I hope that truce can be attained from this meeting and from the subsequent meetings they have. There's a lot of dangers, as you were there and you saw, by having this many groups together. One, no one can predict what would happen at a meeting there. We had over 200 youngsters, about 20 groups represented, and with obviously some antagonism between groups. And all that had to do was get out of hand. And we would have had mass havoc.
What prevented it from getting out of hand?
I would say my workers. I would say my workers.
What role do you think Charlie Melendez, Benji Melendez, Marvin played?
I think he played also a role of keeping it from getting out of hand. His speech concerning the reason for them being there helped. I guess the most frightening aspect of the whole meeting was the turbans. And it's frightening because these are not kids.
My president right there, he's a veteran from the Army.
I did 14 months in Vietnam.
Veteran from the Army.
Got shot.
You know what I mean?
For nothing. Come out here and...
I'm going to tell you something. We're not kids, man. You know? We're not kids. This mostly goes for them, not you other people. Everybody's all right with us. You people. You don't have no chance against us anyway. You know? You got the odds, you know? Plus, you don't know how to use this, man. You think? You don't know how to use this. You're 16 years old. You think you're back in, gambling days back then, busting days? All that shit is over, man. What you're supposed to do now is get some organization, man. You think some togetherness, you know, some party, you know? You know what I mean? Get your sisters together, man, you know? You know how nice it looks walking down the street with a bra hand in hand? You dig it? Dress it, find it like a motherfucker, you dig it? All right, you're nice and high, you know how to smoke, you dig, drinking. That's another thing. We'll drug out of some turbans, baby. I'm proud to say that. You know? Yes, you have, baby. You know? And you yourself, you're full of shit, you know what I mean? What you think, you gonna take over the Bronx? Not even no turbans can take over Bronx, brother. Get that in your motherfucking head, man. You know?
Some of the groups are potentially dangerous. I think the most positive thing about them is that they are drug-free. And I'm willing to look at all the other negative things lightly, the fact that they are drug-free. And I think that we really have to work with them and try to keep them drug-free, get them, their energies channeled into a positive way. That's quote-unquote a positive way, whatever the system or the community decides is a positive way for young people, which is not always the best for young people.
Even though we had colors, we were a gang, we'd never look for trouble, man. I could understand if they beat up Benji, but killing him is another thing. You took away one of our brothers' lives, man. And we were right down the funeral looking at him, saying, I wish the immortals, if they were them, to see what it is to take away one of our brothers' lives. You don't want us to become a gang again, right? Because I know you, right? Don't I know you? You was up in the meeting and you told me, Benji, I want to get out alive. Didn't you tell me that? Benji, I want to get out alive. That's just what's going to happen. You're going to get out alive. Benji didn't get out alive. Benji died. They took away my brother's life, man. The thing is, we're not a gang anymore.
We're an organization, we want to help black and Puerto Ricans to live in a better environment. You see, I said down with colors now. Now let's turn to something, man. Let's turn to something. Let's help our people, man. But they're taking away my brother's lives, taking advantage now that we're an organization. Because I heard that Immortal's been going around Saturday morning saying, look at Ghetto Brothers, let's get them. You guys are giant people, man. You really are. You're not no Hell's Angel, man. You're black and Puerto Rican. You're black and Puerto Rican, brothers. Now, you get that to your head, man. That's all you want to know. I'm going to show you where there's a lie around here. Because you see this?
In some ways, as a reflection of the larger, more controlling society, the gang groups and families caucused and decided how the business of tension, conflict, and rumor would be settled within their community.
Right. Hey, if you have a rumor, you come and see yourself.
The buzz of negotiation and exchange fills the void that fear, anger, and tension have created. And, it is known, all of this must be done before any attempt at peace or a reduction of the tension may be brought about. Will this peace treaty be binding? Will the relative calm remain?
To head ourselves. I want all the presidents to stand up of each clique. Just not just stand up. Have it right. All the presidents to come together, join hands with me. All the presidents. Just presidents. Right. Put it in writing.
The applause that greets a call for peace by a youth services worker is not a convincing guarantee. Much is still left up to the family members, and they will leave here only a bit more convinced that there is hope for a coming together. And whispers abound that there must be further meetings in private, away from the eyes and ears of the intruders.
And telling us, well, you're there to represent a gang. We're really telling them, we're not here to represent a gang. We're the youth. We're the ones who are going to be running in the future. So look at us. Look at our example. We're here as your servants. We're cleaning up the streets. We're trying our best to get you clothes and food. So why don't you cooperate with us? That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for violence. See, that's what I want them to look at us. Not as a gang, but as a together group. The system is oppressing the youth so much that they just actually turn around and tell them, well, fuck you, let me stay here. The only thing I can do is get my friends together. We call ourselves the Dropouts and form a club where that way we could do something ourselves. We could collect our dudes, buy a little soda, a little beer, a little here and there, and we just get organized and start our own club. You can't walk the streets peacefully these days. You never could tell what's going to happen in the corner, whereas drug addicts could jump you, or another club could stop you and say, hey, give me your money. Say, I don't got it, and right there they kill you. You see, this is not a peaceful place to live at. To me, of all the worst places to live at in the Bronx, you can't live a peaceful life. Not even me. We could sleep up our house, and the next thing you could be thinking, what could be happening to my brothers? What's happening to some... Like me and my brothers sit down and say, right now, we look at the clock. Every minute that passes, somebody's dying in the South Bronx. Somebody is being killed in the South Bronx, and we could put an end to that. Because we slept out here in the streets. We know what it is to be pushed around by policemen. We know what it is to get locked up. So the thing is that if we get together and say to ourselves, well, the people need us out there. He says, we don't got any money. Let's people can contribute. I said, listen, we're going to do this for the community. We're going to keep drug addicts out. We're going to clean your community. And people are going to say, wow, man, these people are doing a lot. Then after that, the government's going to look at this. And then they're going to say to themselves, why are we paying the sanitation department? Why are we paying model cities? They're not doing the job. These kids are doing the job. I want people to say the Ghetto Brothers has done something. I want my child to say when he grows up, well, my father's done something for society. See? And I want things to change, man, because I don't want to be living in the South Bronx where everything is messed up. I don't want my son to be walking in glass streets. I don't want him to live in a building that's all messed up in the ghettos. I want him to live in a good environment.
With us tonight in the 51st State Studios are several invited guests. Ted Gross, Commissioner of the Youth Services Agency, Mario Barbell, Director of the Bronx Boys Club, Evelina Antonetti and Lorraine Kane from the United Bronx Parents Community Organization, and several presidents and vice presidents and guests from youth groups located in the South Bronx. I'd like to open tonight's discussion by asking one of the members of the Ghetto Brothers, specifically Charlie Melendez, how the truces worked out.
Yeah, well, pretty good. We still got a little, still a little bit of static here and there, but nothing like before, man. It's a whole lot better than before.
Well, what do you do when trouble starts now? What happens?
Well, we get together. A little bit of phone calls, a little transaction by sending members, to the press. Get things squared away. A lot of things got squared away. I save a lot of people a whole lot of static.
What was the last time, could you give us an example of the last time that you had some problems and what you had to do? How do you get around?
Yeah, just the other day, I had a little problem with black, and not me, my brother and one of his brothers, him himself, big stuff. And he'll tell you, man. I don't even know I wasn't there.
Blackie, do you want to talk about it?
No, what I could say is that everything got straightened out.
Okay. Well, the South Bronx people, the youth in the South Bronx, are serviced by the Youth Services Agency. How many street workers are involved in any kind of servicing, Commissioner Gross?
Well, in the South Bronx area or in the city as a whole?
Well, the South Bronx area.
South Bronx area, about 50, about between 45 and 50. I don't know the exact number.
Well, what's the basic means of service that?
Well, some of the larger percentage of them are assigned to work for some of the groups, but we have more groups than we have workers. What we've done, we've hired some of the young people who are part of organizations in the South Bronx to assist my workers in working with them. One of the things that I think that is important for the viewers to understand is that the Youth Service Agency does not view the groups in the South Bronx as gangs. I think that Benji Melendez stated very clear that they're about positive things, and I think that we have a responsibility to help them do the positive things, and this is what the agency is attempting to do now.
Ms. Kane or Mrs. Antonetti from the United Bronx Parents, do you feel that the youth in the South Bronx are being serviced, and if they're being serviced fairly well?
Well, I would like to reply to that. I think they must be hiding under the rocks because we don't find them. And there are many times when community agencies can't lend a hand and no one ever contacts us. For instance, I remember the day that Benji got killed. The next day I called Ted Gross' office and I spoke to some of his people. I said, where are your people? How could this be happening to our young people here? Where are your workers?
Do you, in fact, work with the youth in the South?
We have something like 54 to 60 youth that we work with. Many of them had high school dropouts, high school students, some college students, and they are doing very positive things. For instance, right now they're organizing to bring out the questions of the high schools, the fact that our students are only allowed to go to Morris and Ben Franklin. They're zoned out of the better schools. And when Mr. Weinberg was talking there was a lot of hogwash, because I have seen a lot You're not allowed to curse here, so I'll say hogwash. But let me say that I have seen many young people pushed out of there for insignificant problems. And I have seen them take to the streets. If they find them smoking a pot or whatever, they are out. Lo que sea, pero que sea.
Is there any thought that you young people have of maybe beginning some kind of alternative to a school that you don't feel comfortable in?
Right on, man.
Well, how would you describe it? Could anybody describe it?
Describe what?
Describe a school that you might want to start. What would you study?
Any school in this country I won't want to be in.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't. Why? I wouldn't. When has a school ever taught me that that one time in my country there were Indians, like Taino Indians. You know where I learned that? I learned that from Benji. You understand? I learned it from him. When has any school ever taught me, you understand, that at one time, you understand, I'm like you would say, I'm a mixed race with an African. I never knew that. You understand? Never.
Did you have to find that out around the block?
Yes, I did. Listen, if I was still be in school, I wouldn't know that right now. I don't believe in this school system. And let me tell you, I'm 20 years old, and I know a lot. Understand? For my age, I know a lot. And where did I learn it? In the streets. Because the school couldn't do nothing for me. That's all I got to say.
Tony, the school is completely irrelevant to our young people. The schools have failed them from the time they go in. By the time they're in second grade, they're already behind. And they feel completely alienated to a system that's dealing with a middle-class type of teaching. And it's not relevant to their lives, to what's happening in their communities. So they are completely turned off. How could you blame them when they begin to throw rocks and break windows and run amok and fight amongst each other? If the schools themselves have failed them, and we do not have sufficient teachers of our own to be in those schools so that they could perhaps look up to.
Well, Manny, you are a teacher at PS 133. How do you explain the fact that you have been able to relate to young people in the way that you do when other teachers may not be able to do that? Or do you feel that you are alone in the kinds of ways that you can relate?
No, there are other teachers that relate to the guys here. I'm sure they can tell you the names of a few other people that they've talked to.
Well, what made you begin to think that you had to move out of the classroom to deal with kids that were not there in the schools?
Because most of the kids were outside the school. The brightest, most powerful kids were outside the school. Shouldn't call them kids, but the best minds were outside the school, and I'm concerned with reaching the best minds. And if they're outside the school, that's where you have to go.
If the best minds are outside of the school and some of the best energies, what do you think we ought to do in order to utilize these energies towards some good for everybody?
Well, I think you ought to talk to them and figure out what they want from you and then serve them as best you can.
Well, what do you want?
What do we want? Why don't you get up and say something?
Well, listen, you're talking about school and education. That's pretty nice, right? And everybody should get education, great. But let's look at the problems we got in the South Bronx, like right now. I got a little kid here, and he's my nephew. His name is Luis Melendez. And like right now, we got a problem in school. The kid can't write or read, and he's 11 years old. And right now, because he can't meet up to their standards, they want to kick him out of school, man. And there's one thing that we're going to protest. If we got to sit in, if we got to take over the school, if we got to go out there and bash, something into their head, because they talk about understanding. How the hell can they understand when they got 35 kids in a classroom and one teacher's going to put a little bit of psychic energy into one kid, like him? I mean, now they want to send him to a 600 school, and I think that's pretty bullshit. You know what? We got to work with the problem in the South Bronx, in our community, like the school. I guess if the teacher will take a little bit more effort, because their job is from 8 to 3. After 3, the hell with the kids. I'm getting paid. I'm getting a salary. You know what? So what? I go into a classroom and I look at 35 kids. If they make their homework, I don't care. If they do, I still get paid. Twice a month. You know what? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the kids. You know what? Because the coming up generation is around us, and they're 12, 13, 14 years old, and this is one thing we got to deal with. My point is to bring it across to the people that are watching us right now. We got a horrifying problem with the youth in the South Bronx, and the biggest problems come from school, from lack of education. If they don't get no kind of motivation, something they can push for, like their goals, right now you ask one of these kids, what are your goals? What do you want out of school? Well, I want to get me a job in a factory. I want to get me this. I guess it's the teacher that were putting all their psychic energy, or at least they were putting half of their energy into these kids. They could say, well, I want to be a teacher. You know what? I want to be a scientist. But no, they don't. They want to drop out because they don't see nobody really reaching out for them, helping them out, man. And this is something that is a problem, not only in the South Bronx, but in the majority in New York, in the ghettos, because the teachers Well, the Board of Education are not pushing hard enough, man.
Manny?
One of the problems inside the schools is that the students don't have any power over what happens to them. If a teacher decides that a student should be suspended, the student has very little say over what's happened to him. If a kid wants to drink water in the school and the principal and the assistant principals have turned off the water, there's no way a kid could get the water turned on.
Well, I was in the school yesterday, for example, and I saw students that were in the halls and moving in and out of classrooms, and there seemed to be free access to water, to restrooms, to cafeterias. I wasn't aware of any kind of restrictions.
Well, you didn't see the locked bathrooms. You don't know about all the water fountains that are turned off on the floors that the visitors never go to. You know, you were on the show floor, you know, on the 4th floor, but on the 5th floor there's no water fountain. And on the 3rd and 2nd and 1st floors, they're turned off. So, you know, you got the show, okay? You saw the open bathroom, you saw the water fountain that was on. Maybe they knew you were coming, okay? But the students are absolutely powerless. And one of the things I've noticed in my school is that since these guys have been affecting the neighborhood and the school, the kids have a greater sense of power. They're not as frightened as they used to be. And the people who are becoming frightened now are the people who've been very repressive in the past. Mr. Weinberger has left. His assistant principal in charge of fear and repression has left. And I think a lot of the other assistant principals would like to leave if they could. And a lot of the teachers are saying that the school is getting terrible. But what I think they're saying is that they're losing the kind of control over the kids that they've enjoyed in the past. I think the reason they're losing it is because these young men who are becoming, you know, full-blown men are exerting an influence over the people inside the schools, and the power is going to the people.
We've been talking about the schools and the energy that these young people have. Commissioner Gross, could you offer some suggestions as to how that energy could be used?
First of all, I think that you talk about young people, and I heard one of the workers, youngsters introduce themselves as 20 years old, and it gets to be a little beyond our young person's age. Our meaning is that correcting the schools does not solve the problem for basically most of the youngsters that we have here. I think that what we have here is the failure of our system, basically the failure of many of the job training programs we have, the failure of the economy that we have. There are no jobs. Most of the youngsters would like to get a job if they possibly can. Most of them would like to do something to better their living conditions, work on the housing that they... These things are not available. I think one of the things that the system has to do is beginning to address themselves to those types of needs, the needs that they have, that if we're going to have job training programs, that we have a job training program where there's a guaranteed job at the end of it, that you're not just training someone to have a trained young person standing on a corner. And I think that's one of the basic problems, that many of the programs we've instituted were also geared at another youngster. It was not geared at the youngsters that we have here. And I think we have to begin to address ourselves and to the youngsters that we have today and stop dealing with the youngsters of the 1950s.
Is that true of the Boys Club as well as the Youth Services Agency, Mr. Barbell?
Well, Boys Clubs of America is a fairly conservative group. And I believe that
when you say fairly conservative, do you mean that there is no room in the Boys Club for youngsters like these?
No, I shouldn't say that. I'm talking about the board as a whole, I mean the national body. Our Boys Club has instituted many new programs. The program which I'm director of is a first of any Boys Club in the country, working specifically with members of the clique, the unaffiliated groups, as the commissioner likes to call them. Again, our problem lies in the fact that I find that these kids don't want a handout. They don't want something that's given to them. They would like to work if they had the opportunity to get the jobs. Most of the programs, the job training programs, lead them to nothing, to nowhere. In the Boys Club, we have a job counselor. This man beats his head against the wall trying to find jobs. I mean, we have about, in our program, 500 of the clique members.
Well, what about I read about a program that young man who was a Puerto Rican in the Bronx started several months ago, in which he began to renovate and look after apartments. What about the kinds of work that can be created? Are there no possibilities to do that?
No, I think that this is probably a good answer. We have the manpower, we have the minds, given the opportunity to establish themselves in businesses of their own, given the opportunity, as this young man did, to be able to. I think that this goes a long way to solving a lot of our problems. If they can find themselves economically secure, and I think that then they can begin to deal with the system on the system's level, rather than saying, I'm a clique, I'm a member of something, you know, and you have to deal with me as that person.
Yeah, but is it necessarily negative or bad or not a good thing for these young people to consider themselves members of families or cliques?
No, I think this is one of the strong points of the cliques, is that they think they are family, they are together. Whereas they, you know, the ghetto brothers, the peacemakers, what have you, I mean, they come together, they have the machos to be together, to be strong. And I think that this is what we should work in, not try to destroy the strength, but work with the strength.
Pat Watson, you're generally the host here. Why don't you ask some of these new people some questions?
I've been listening with great interest. Let me throw one at Charlie. Right on. Charlie, most of the guys here are... Yeah, go ahead. Most of the guys here are dressed like warriors. You know, and I hear you talking about your warlords and your war council. Who's the enemy?
None.
The establishment.
Right on, there it is.
Okay.
The establishment.
Who's
There we
the
go.
Who's the establishment?
Well, let's talk about some of the politicians up there.
Just a minute, we got one down here.
Tell them who the enemy is first. Pigs. The pigs will teach you like the chingan.
I say you're dressed like warriors. Okay, hold on a minute, because here somebody's talking, we can't hear.
We're dressed like warriors, right?
Yeah, you got
boots. How you dress?
You got some. I'm dressed in a suit. You guys.
I'm dressed in a leather and a ring and a pair of boots. Right. How you dress?
Okay, I'm dressed.
There's no difference. I mean, years ago, our people didn't wear no clothes at all. Check it out.
So the war symbols don't mean that you feel like warriors.
Oh, well, we are warriors. Well, we are in ourselves.
Well, that's what I want to know. We are. Let me tell you, man. The enemy around the Bronx now, at this very moment, is the policemen. See, they don't know how to communicate with the brothers in this, around the area. See, they look at us as black and Puerto Ricans. Fuck that shit, man. That's what they look at us. You understand? We try to communicate with them. Come on, shut up, man. You try to communicate with them, right? And, man, you just try to talk. They just beat one of my brother's heads, man, not too long ago. 5 of them, man. 5 of them, man. And the guy ain't got no no weapons, man. And then if we do something, we'll be wrong. You understand? Yes, this is a warrior thing. Yes, it is. And we're here to defend our brothers and sisters against people like them. They're very racist, man. If you're going to communicate, communicate, man. If you're going to strike at us, we're going to strike back. Right on.
Okay.
Do you feel that the truce, do you feel that the peacemaking that we saw taking place in that movie that we all watched together is solid? Like, are these guys together?
Not really.
Not really. Now, why not? If your enemy, you all said the same thing. The enemy is the establishment, the enemy is the hunkies, the enemy is the cops, the enemy is me.
I know, dig this.
Why aren't you together?
I got something. Because they started it all.
Who started it all?
The establishment. Look.
Yeah, but why are you fighting?
Wait, let me tell you. We are depressed people. You gotta look at that. I know, man. No, it was America, man. The day that my mother came over on that ship, man, and she came here and they pushed her in the ghetto. Maybe they pushed her because she wanted to go, or maybe because she had to go. Chances are because she had to go. Yeah. She had to do a lot. And she was harassed and fucked over and fucked over and fucked over, and they fucking over me and they fucking over them. And it's time the motherfuckers gotta stop, man. Hey, we were forced. Hey, check this out. Then again, hey, we Puerto Ricans were forced to come here in the beginning, man.
See, our parents came here to look for better jobs, you know, like a better improvement, because at the time, the island, you know, was fucked up, man, you know. And like they say that slogan, love it or leave it. I'll leave it if you give me the money.
You leave here?
I'll leave it. Definitely, I will. See, because I want to do something, man. They don't want... You see, I come to try to get a job. They say, well, you're going to have to get a haircut. Because, you know, the hair is not going to do the motherfucking job. It's you, not the hair. Well, you can't go because your pants. That's a lot of bullshit, man. As long as I'm wearing something, right? But they said, well, you just can't come like this, man. So, F it. I'm with my brothers, man. This is my family. I do something for them and my community. Fuck America, man.
What can you do to draw this group closer together so you get stronger, so you can deal with that?
Communication, man. Communication. Education, too. See, like we were saying before, man, like the true educators going around, man, it's political parties like Young Lords, MPI, Black Panther Party. They're teaching true education to our brothers and sisters on what's happening now in the United States. You see? Like, it's good, like my brother said before, Lincoln and Washington. What did Lincoln do to my people?
Thank you.
Did Lincoln free my people? No, it was Betance. Right? Was it George Washington that went out there to fight? Oh, yes, he fought against the British. He didn't fight against the Spaniards. See, there's a big difference. If we Puerto Ricans don't know that, we might as well call ourselves Americans, man. And I'm not American.
Oh, nothing, man, not even American. We don't know who we are because we're not Americans.
That's right.
We're not a state.
What would you prefer to be?
What do you want to be?
Puerto Rican, man.
No, not what we want. What we are. We are Puerto Ricans, man.
And black,
you know. And we're here, like you was talking before, as far as the establishing the. You know what? America, period. When they went to Puerto Rico, they told us America is beautiful. America, land of opportunity.
Streets of gold.
You know, and they said, America. They put America so nice and so big. It was a beautiful dream. And when we came on those banana boats, like, you know, and we came to the United States, America, land of opportunity, and we looked at the ghettos, the way they pushed us into the ghettos, because they didn't give us jobs, they bought us. It was like a damn nightmare. I'm talking about this.
You want to go back?
You know what? Why not? You know what? Que viva Puerto Rico libre, and that's the way I feel.
When you go back, what's going to happen to your black brothers that you've now made an association with and you're beginning to build?
As soon as we liberate Puerto Rico, they all could come to Puerto Rico. That's the way I feel about it. We told the Yankees, leave the island. The same way you came, leave it. You know, as soon as we liberate it and we're fighting for our goals, you know, we're pushing, we're all striving for the same thing, man. We are depressed people, like I said once before. Once we get that together, we can start everything.
I don't know if there's something that has been made clear or not clear, but Benji just said something. If Puerto Rico were liberated in the way that you're talking about it, could Pat Watson go there?
Yeah. He got something to offer. He's not going to bullshit us. Because I think that if he's going to come in.
Take from the island.
Right.
What's that?
That's what all these people are doing over there. They are taking from the island.
Or what people?
Listen, the last time I went to Puerto Rico was in 1958. And I went back again in 1971. And I left that island disgusted, wanted to vomit over everything over there. And why? Because that island was just cut up. And, you know, this is progress, but progress for who? Progress for who? Those hotels coming up, and hotels for us? No. You better not believe that. It's not for us. It's for... What's your name? Patrick. It's for you. It's for you and your wife and your children. And if we, as I did, walk up to the Hotel San Juan, and even with my white husband, they weren't letting us in. You see? So, yeah, we got to go back there and we got to clean it out. And then, if people such as you come and have something to offer us, fine.
Don't infiltrate.
But don't take away from us, because too much has been taken away from us as it is.
Right. All right.
Manny, why don't you?
Yeah, you said, Pat, you said that they're wearing warriors' garb. Well, they might look at you and say that you're wearing warriors' garb, too. And they're into, like, physical war, okay? Because that's what's happening up there, because maybe the cops are into physical war, too, and when they lose their heads, they get into physical war with each other, okay, when the pressure gets too big. But maybe your uniform is another kind of war. It's an economic war. You know, you're an economic warrior, okay? And what you want, the victory that you want, perhaps, and people who wear your warrior's costume, is to gain control over these guys. All right?
I won't say yes to that, but I know.
Well, I'm saying that perhaps, you know, perhaps that's what it is when Benji says he can't go to work in this costume. Okay, what you're saying is, you want to relate to us. You got to put on our warrior's costume first. Okay, and then once we have you controlled, once we have won the war for your mind, okay, then we will let you take part in the economic system. So you're wearing a warrior's costume too. But maybe some of them don't recognize that yet. But a lot of them do, because the Panthers and the Lords have elevated their consciousness to the fact that you're wearing a warrior's garb.
Let me come back to the point that question of mine was meant to bring out and ask you, Manny, if you feel that this group is becoming united enough to get some real strength out of themselves as a group. If the Ghetto Brothers and the Savage Skulls and the Turbans and the Immortals are really at the stage where they can work together.
They are. Yeah. Who do you think is gaining control? Who do you think is gaining control over the schools? Who do you think is gaining control of the police department? Who do you think is gaining control of so many of the institutions up there? It's these guys. Okay? Who are the police afraid of? Why are the police trying to relate to these guys? Because they're afraid of them. Why are the principals and the assistant principals and the teachers suddenly doing a big turnabout and they're no longer taking the guys in their office and beating them up? Because they're afraid of them.
Afraid of a revolution.
All right?
What happens
Call it what you want.
What happens when the Ghetto Brothers and the Savage Skulls and other groups out of communities like the South Bronx get control? Then what?
Then they decide what happens in the schools to the children that they have and the younger brothers and sisters they have. They decide the kind of education they're going to have. They tell me, the teacher, okay, as some of Benji's friends have, they've said, forget about teaching what you're teaching. Let's talk about the problems in the community, okay? Forget about social studies that'll tell us, hey, let's get the hell out of this community. Let's talk about social studies that'll make us understand this community that we're in. Okay?
Benji, what's going to keep you from becoming exactly like the people that you say are controlling you?
What's going to become of me?
No, what's going to keep you from becoming that? Exactly like...
Getting a lot of people together. Hey, man, like I said again, it's the system, man. That's what's got, even the policeman, like I said before.
Yeah, but Manny says that that groups like this, the Ghetto Brothers and Savage Skulls, are beginning to take over the schools, take over the police department, affect those institutions. What's going to keep you from becoming exactly the way they are?
The violence. Dig this, Tony. That's what it is. No, dig this. It's this, man. And I feel this way, and I know that a lot of the other brothers are like this. That we feel that we can't get like them because until we're doing what we want to do, we can just get out. Because I know everybody here, man, one time or another, the boss tried to stick him, and he said, nah, and he smacked the boss and leaves the job. Because we're not worried about doing this and about doing that. We want to do what we want to do. And, like, you know, everything we're thinking about is good. But, like, when all the good is pushed out of you, man, you only got one alternative, man, and that's to turn around and hook at each other. I can't hook at the man up in, you know, sitting up in the office, because I'm down here in the South Bronx. So what I do, I bump into somebody, man, and I hook with him, and that's how we're fighting each other. And the police help us too. You know, they help, man. They're beautiful people. They come, they beat up brothers, you know. And this is, I mean, it's, you know, like everybody on TV probably, that's guy talking a lot of crap. But it's true, man. I've seen, you know, even I didn't believe it. I live in the Bronx. But they come up, man, and they'll tell you, what are you looking at, and push you around, you know, and bet you, and tell you to go back to Puerto Rico. They took this guy and a bunch of his brothers, man, and just locked them up. You know, they went in the basement. And, like, you know, they get smart, so he feels that he got his little things with him, too. You know, and they down there. So he told them, hey, you don't push me. And boom, they start busting ass, man. You know.
Hey, well, not only that, this brother right here. That's what I said before. He got beat up by about 25 TPS, you know? And when we were going to get in and stand and rumble with them, they all had their hands on the pieces. Now, I know if we would have rumbled with them, we all would have been dead. So what we had to do, walk away, and they took him away. And they almost cracked his skull. Okay, he was a little bit high. Maybe he was a little bit out of hand. But if the cop would have told us, you know, talk to your man, I would have grabbed him because he's my brother, and I would have pulled him away, you know. But the man didn't want to do. The man kicked him in his chest, And when Big Sly, Ghetto Brother, went to grab the comp that we all were going to get in, they all grabbed their pieces. And what we had to do, tip. We all have to tip.
Lorraine, sure.
Have you become like them?
Become like them?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, it's hard for me to tell. When I sit here, I have to think about what I hear. When I see things that are on the television tube, I have to think about that. Occasionally, I think I'm struggling. And then what happens is that I find I'm getting taken off. So I don't really know. Maybe from your point of view, I have become like that.
No, I don't know.
From my point of view, I'm still me.
But you have made it above what some of us here have made it. And I'm wondering, have you become like that? To have in this world, does it mean to become like that?
I think that what you have just described, all right, when you say to have, you've left something out, because there's a burden of responsibility that you got to deal with. When I came to you and talked with you yesterday,
right,
okay, I talked with you. Right. We talked together. That's something that we've got to be able to keep doing, no matter what I've got, no matter what you got. I don't know what you got.
And there's something else going on here. There's this third world group here, desk. Isn't that a way of people like you, like us, you know, having, and still having that responsibility to our own?
I hope so.
So then to get up there doesn't mean to be like them.
I hope not.
Man, what are we fighting for?
Pat? You got any responses to that?
I don't think I have, but it seems to me that we've told a lot of stories here tonight.
I got one.
Go.
All right, I'm a new turban, but our president, Manny, he been up in Bronx County for 5 months already on charges of robbery, which he didn't commit. But they're holding him because they say the turbans did it. Now, when the turbans got organized for the second time, people got scared that we were going to go around killing, mugging, and doing all the things that maybe in the past few gangs had done before. But we didn't, because all we wanted to do was have our place back, live with the people, join the people, and fight against the people that are not with us, that are against us. And Manny was picked up because they said the turbans robbed a supermarket. And they still got him up there without any charges to prove that he was in it.
It's like, listen, let me tell you about Manny. Manny Arroyo. They arrested him. They busted him for suspicion of armed robbery, and they had sufficient evidence to convict the guy. And from $15,000 that we were, now that we got the community, and Manny had a lot of pull in the community. He had the people together. He had the kids in school together. He had the community united. And from $15,000 bail without sufficient evidence for suspicion of armed robbery, they boosted up to $20,000 bail. Now, this is one guy that he had a say-so. He started the turbans. He got the people together. He got the majority of the store, the people that owned the stores around, and they were willing to back us up. I mean, we were beginning to start we started to clean the streets. We started a breakfast program. We started a whole lot of things, man. And Manny had a whole lot of pull. And when they found out that Manny was a turban, the Daily News and all these papers, they gave us a label like gangs, right? And their eyes, we are gangs, but we're not. We're an organization. You know, we're a club. Us, Turbans, Ghetto Brothers, and the other organization from the South Bronx. We are organization. We begin to help the community. We have helped the community, man. And this one guy, the Mike Arroyo, man, I will give my last drop of blood for him. He's a brother of mine. And our only goal is to get this guy out, man. And like, if we're gonna keep on striving and pushing for this, man. And I don't care if I gotta give my last drop of blood, man. But man, we're gonna get him out, man.
Commissioner Gross, what's your best estimate for what's your prognosis for the youth of the South Bronx?
Oh, first of all, Tony, let me say something. I think that before we forget what the young people are saying, They have an organization because there's a need. They have a need that we adults, whether we are parents or just happen to live in the community, are not fulfilling to them. We haven't fulfilled to them.
Right on.
They have a need to form this organization trying to do the things that we have failed to do. I think that we have that other obligation that once we see them moving in a positive vein, to do everything we possibly can to help them to move in a very positive vein. And that I think the prognosis is good.
But what do you mean by a positive vein, Mr. Gross? Fitting into your patterns? Fitting into the patterns of the establishment?
Not my pattern, but fitting within the boundaries of the establishment. Let's face it now that the establishment sets up boundaries.
You know what's our bigger problem? The biggest problem we got is poverty, people like you and other people. You know what? The biggest money that's coming down before it was for the TC, rehabilitate the addict. The biggest money, the biggest problem in South Bronx are the youth because we're taking a stand. They have pushed us so far and we're taking a stand now, you know? And the biggest problem we have because all the big money is coming down for the youth. And people like you and other people, they're supposed to help the community. You're using that money and you're putting that money in your pocket.
Thank you.
That's what's happening.
Wait. You know, you brought up a good point as far as drugs are concerned. You know, like a few months ago, you know, my mother rapped to me, get into the NACC. The NACC this, the NACC that. My brother-in-law just came from the NACC. You know how much time he had to do before he can get out? 8 months. He just got out. Let me tell you, you know how long it took me to kick? 2 weeks. You know who helped me? Benji, Chicken and Power. You understand? That's who helped me to kick. All that money that Rockefeller's getting for that program. For what? Methadone? Or you gonna get hooked on it again? Get hooked on another drug? Later for the methadone, man. We don't need no methadone.
That's what's wrong. They say NACC.
You can kick.
They say NACC, rehabilitation. You know what it is? That's a concentration camp. Because you go in there, you're locked up like a dog, like an animal. I won't put my own dog behind the box they put us into, man. And like they say Rockefeller, he can use that. You know, when next elections are coming up, Rockefeller, well, the NACC, I donated $10 million for this. That's a lot of bullshit, you know. He makes that, well, Rockefeller started the NACC and he got his name up there. Let's vote for him. He's doing something for the community. He's helping the addict. But now the biggest problem is with the youth, so all the money is coming down to this youth program. Now everybody wants a piece of the pie.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Huh?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, one of the brothers a while ago talked about communication as being... No, it's just, I said, how are you going to do it? You said communication. And, yeah, well,
like
somebody
if you want me to tell you how you think that we can get together.
No, I just want to say, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because we're just about out of it for the night, but I think that we've had a lot of communication here tonight. I think you guys coming down here have told the world, and a pretty big world out there, a whole lot that they didn't know before. I think that movie told the world a whole lot they didn't know before, and I hope some of us are listening. And I want to say thanks for coming.
They're listening, and no one listens to them.
Hearing, well,
Mrs. I would like to say something to Ted. The South Bronx has been the worst area. You have given us the least jobs for young people. You have given to other areas. The Bronx has had to fight and fight and fight for the few jobs that we get. Now, all of a sudden, because there was a death and because there are certain problems, you have decided that perhaps a few jobs might be let loose. And perhaps under supervision, you will open a storefront for them. You still do not trust them. I am talking about that. I am talking about what's going on in Hunts Point area, where you still do not trust these young people.
He gave us a sentiment. I mean, he's doing it.
And promises are made and promises are broken.
Yeah, so what? He gave us a sentence. What? 7 more months? We're going to take it away from us?
All right, but dig this. But at least he took a step, man. You know, like we can't be getting too hard on the man because he took a step.
Well, we're not getting hard.
Wait a minute. Let me let you know. Everybody's saying, for instance, they're saying white. We can't put no labels on nobody, man. We got to say them. You're saying him. You're pointing your finger at him,
Did
man.
I point at him?
Like the man, when that shit happened to Black Benji, people were saying you did it. And it wasn't that, man. It's everything that happened. From the moment they came to school, they were being pushed around. Now you're beginning to point your finger at people. And when you point, you make big mistakes. Because a man has tried. Now, because he tried, maybe somebody will sniff it, man. Maybe somebody will bump into the center and say, hey, man, what's this? They'll have a little bit of bucks. He'll cut us loose. Boom, all right? He turned out to be all right, but he cut us loose. Then we tell the man says, hey, you got a good thing here. And then another man, maybe people watching us now say, well, if he cuts him loose, I'll give him something.
What are you, his attorney or something?
No, I'm just saying, we should cut him half-ass.
Let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you, please.
Can I?
You can rap, man.
Okay, beautiful. The man here, you say he got us a front, right? So what? So what?
Well, look, you don't appreciate it, but damn it.
No, it's not the point of appreciating. The point is, it's gonna get taken away from us, man.
All
so
right.
what good?
Well, like I told you, the connection, bro. The connection. Oh, somebody came over to the center and told him and my other brother.
Yeah, it's gonna be taken away in 7 months.
I don't know anything about
that.
That's what they say.
Manny?
I don't know anything about that.
Let me come back to the point that question of mine was meant to bring out and ask you, Manny, if you feel that this group is becoming united enough to get some real strength out of themselves as a group. If the Ghetto Brothers and the Savage Skulls and the Turbans and the Immortals are really at the stage where they can work together.
They are.
Yeah.
Who do you think is gaining control? Who do you think is gaining control over the schools? Who do you think is gaining control of the police department? Who do you think is gaining control of so many of the institutions up there? It's these guys. Who are the police afraid of? Why are the police trying to relate to these guys? Because they're afraid of them. Why are the principals and the assistant principals and the teachers suddenly doing a big turnabout and they're no longer taking the guys in their office and beating them up? Because they're afraid of them.
Afraid of a revolution.
All right?
What happens
Call
when
it what you want.
What happens when the Ghetto Brothers and the Savage Skulls and other groups out of communities like the South Bronx get control?
We
Then what?
started it ourselves.
Then they decide what happens in the schools to the children that they have and the younger brothers and sisters they have. They decide the kind of education they're going to have. They tell me, the teacher, okay, as some of Benji's friends have, they've said, forget about teaching what you're teaching. Let's talk about the problems in the community, okay? Forget about social studies that'll tell us, hey, let's get the hell out of this community. Let's talk about social studies that'll make us understand this community that we're in. Okay?
Benji, what's going to keep you from becoming exactly like the people that you say are controlling you?
What's gonna become of me?
No, what's going to keep you from becoming that? Exactly like...
Getting a lot of people together.
Hey, man, like I said again, it's the system, man. That's what's got, even the policeman, like I said before.
But Manny says that that groups like this, the Ghetto Brothers and Savage Skulls, are beginning to take over the schools, take over the police department, affect those institutions. What's going to keep you from becoming exactly the way they are?
The violence. Dig this, Tony. That's what. No, dig this. It's this, man. And I feel this way, and I know that a lot of the other brothers are like this. That we feel that we can't get like them because until we're doing what we want to do, we can just get out. Because I know everybody here, man, one time or another, the boss tried to stick him, and he said, nah, and he smacked the boss and leaves the job. Because we're not worried about doing this and about doing that. We want to do what we want to do. And, like, you know, everything we're thinking about is good. But, like, when all the good is pushed out of you, man, you only got one alternative, man, and that's to turn around and hook at each other. I can't hook at the man up in, you know, sitting up in the office, because I'm down here in the South Bronx. So what I do, I bump into somebody, man, and I hook with him, and that's how we're fighting each other. And the police help us too. You know, they help, man. They're beautiful people. They come, they beat up brothers, you know. And this is, I mean, it's, you know, like everybody on TV probably, that's guy talking a lot of crap. But it's true, man. I've seen, you know, even I didn't believe it. I live in the Bronx. But they come up, man, and they'll tell you, what are you looking at, and push you around, you know, and bet you, and tell you to go back to Puerto Rico. They took this guy and a bunch of his brothers, man, and just locked them up. You know, they went in the basement. And, like, you know, they get smart, so he feels that he got his little things with him, too. You know, and they down there. So he told them, hey, you don't push me. And boom, they start busting ass, man. You know.
Hey, well, not only that, this brother right here. That's what I said before. He got beat up by about 25 TPS, you know? And when we was going to get in and stand and rumble with them, they all had their hands on the pieces. Now, I know if we would have rumbled with them, we all would have been dead. So what we had to do, walk away, and they took him away. And they almost cracked his skull. Okay, he was a little bit high. Maybe he was a little bit out of hand. But if the cop would have told us, you know, talk to your man, I would have grabbed him because he's my brother, and I would have pulled him away, you know. But the man didn't want to do. The man kicked him in his chest. And when Big Sly, the Ghetto Brother, went to grab the cop that we all were going to get in, they all grabbed their pieces. And what we had to do, tip. We all have to tip.
Lorraine, sure.
Have you become like them?
Become like them?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, it's hard for me to tell. When I sit here, I have to think about what I hear. When I see things that are on the television tube, I have to think about that. Occasionally, I think I'm struggling. And then what happens is that I find I'm getting taken off. So I don't really know. Maybe from your point of view, I have become like that.
No, I don't know.
From my point of view, I'm still me.
But you have made it above what some of us here have made it. And I'm wondering, have you become like that? To have in this world, does it mean to become like that?
I think that that what you have just described, all right, when you say to have, you've left something out, because there's a burden of responsibility that you got to deal with. When I came to you and talked with you yesterday,
right,
okay, I talked with you. We talked together. That's something that we've got to be able to keep doing, no matter what I've got, no matter what you got. I don't know what you got.
And there's something else going on here. There's this third world group here, desk. Isn't that a way of people like you, like us, you know, getting, having, and still having that responsibility to our own?
I hope so.
So then to get up there doesn't mean to be like them.
I hope not.
Man, what are we fighting for?
Pat? You got any responses to that?
I don't think I have, but it seems to me that we've told a lot of stories here tonight.